At exactly 11:30 p.m., 3 prisoners disappeared from the most secure prison in America. And alarms were triggered, and guards saw them leave. The next morning, the beds were still occupied, but the men were gone. This was Alcatraz, a prison surrounded by freezing water, violent currents, and certain death. Officials said escape was impossible, and yet no bodies were ever found. Tonight, we're telling the story of the only Alcatraz escape that may have worked. Under soft moonlight, a small island sits quietly in San Francisco Bay. Just a few miles away, the city of San Francisco is alive with light. Cars move. Buildings glow. Life goes on. But the island does not move that it stays still. This island is Alcatraz. Also known as the Rock, Alcatraz is remembered as one of the most secure and feared prisons in American history. In 1933, as organized crime, especially in cities like Chicago, grew more powerful and more violent, the U.S. government needed a place to hold criminals who could not be controlled anywhere else. That place was Alcatraz Island. Alcatraz Federal Prison covered more than 70,000 square meters, roughly the size of 10 football fields. Inside were 336 cells. Thick concrete walls, steel bars, and constant guard patrols made escape seem impossible. Some prisoners were monitored by multiple guards at the same time, and beyond the prison walls was something even more dangerous: the water. The bay surrounding Alcatraz was freezing cold all year round. The currents were strong and unpredictable. Sharks were often reported in the area. To most inmates, the message was clear: if you tried to escape, you would not survive. Life on Alcatraz was strict and repetitive. Prisoners lived under constant confinement, following the same routine every single day. Wake up, clean their cells, work, eat, and sleep. Many were assigned maintenance jobs, such as cleaning pipes or painting walls. They were cheap labor, paid almost nothing. Throughout Alcatraz's history, there were 14 recorded escape attempts. Most failed. 23 inmates were caught, and 5 were shot and killed during their escape attempts. Alcatraz earned its reputation as a prison no one could escape. But one case changed everything. In June of 1962, 3 men attempted what was believed to be impossible. They tried to escape Alcatraz. The men were brothers John Anglin and Clarence Anglin, along with Frank Lee Morris. A 4th inmate, Alan West, helped plan the escape but would ultimately be left behind. The Anglin brothers were serving time for armed bank robbery. Because they had repeatedly tried to escape from other prisons, they were transferred to Alcatraz in 1960. Frank Morris was known for his high intelligence, but also for a troubled life marked by crime. Alan West, a skilled mechanic, had previously failed an escape attempt and was sent to Alcatraz as punishment. First, only the Anglin brothers planned to escape. Morris later joined them, followed by West. One major problem stood in their way. Their cells were not next to each other. However, Clarence Anglin, who had a good behavior record, requested a cell transfer. Confident in the prison's security, the guards approved the request without much suspicion. Once housed near one another, the men began studying their cells closely. Each cell was small and dark. Inside were a narrow bed, a sink, a toilet, and little else. Beneath the sink was a small ventilation opening. The concrete around the vent was old and weakened by years of moisture. Using stolen spoons, scissors, and nail clippers, the men slowly widened the vents. To hide their work, they covered the holes with cardboard and newspaper. Progress was slow, so Alan West built a crude drill using parts from a broken vacuum cleaner. The biggest risk was noise, but Alcatraz had an unusual rule. Every evening, inmates were allowed 1 hour of music. During that time, prisoners played instruments like accordions, guitars, and violins. While the music filled the prison, the sound of drilling went unnoticed. After weeks of work, the openings were finally large enough for an adult man to crawl through. Behind the cells, the men discovered a narrow service corridor used for storage. Guards rarely checked it. Late at night, hidden from view, the 4 men met there to plan the rest of the escape. The next challenge was fooling the guards during nightly bed checks. Frank Morris came up with the idea of using fake heads. Using soap, toilet paper, toothpaste, and paint, the men sculpted realistic faces. Clarence Anglin, who worked in the prison barbershop, stole real hair to make them look convincing. Clothes and newspapers were stuffed under blankets to create the shape of sleeping bodies. The final challenge was the water. Swimming across the bay was too dangerous, so they decided to build a raft. More than 50 rubber raincoats were stolen from prison storage. Using steam pipes and heat, the men sealed them together. They also made simple life vests. To inflate the raft, they planned to use a stolen accordion as an air pump. That on the night of June 11th, 1962, the escape began. As the men climbed through the ventilation openings, something went wrong. Alan West failed to widen his hole in time and became trapped inside his cell. Unable to escape, he was forced to stay behind. John Anglin, Clarence Anglin, and Frank Morris continued without him. They crawled through the vents, moved along the service corridor, and climbed up to the prison roof. At one point, A metal object fell and created a loud noise that echoed through the prison. Several inmates later said they heard it. No guard responded. The men reached the shoreline, inflated the raft using the accordion, put on their life vests, and quietly entered the water. That night they disappeared into San Francisco Bay. The next morning, guards noticed something was wrong. When Frank Morris failed to respond, a guard pulled back the blanket and froze. A fake head stared back at him. The prison was immediately locked down. Search teams swept the island and the surrounding waters. Days later, pieces of clothing and a damaged raft were found on nearby Angel Island. No bodies were ever recovered. After weeks of searching, the government officially concluded that the men had drowned, but many people were not convinced. The Anglin brothers were excellent swimmers. The tides that night moved toward land, not out to sea. Their family later received anonymous flowers and cards. Decades later, letters surfaced claiming the men had survived and were living in South America. Even the FBI admitted there was no physical proof of death. Less than a year after the escape, Alcatraz prison was permanently closed. Today, the island stands as a museum, silent, unmoving, and the truth about what really happened that night remains unknown.